Happy Monday. Let's talk Broncos. Bree Maestas, Zach Seegers, Joey Richards, Colin Harrington throwing elbows already. Not Broncos related, but I'm here to make sure Zach and Bree don't curse the Nuggets again by going to the game tomorrow. Go Nuggets, go Broncos. How dare you, Colin, that you fall into the charade that is Joey Richards' narrative.
Oh, wow. Okay, for those that don't know, if you're a Let's Talk Broncos OG, that was the thing for maybe
throwback.
Throwback to the episode. She would call me Joey Seegers all the time. I mean, what a throwback moment to start the show. That's crazy.
Yeah, hasn't happened since the in-office Mile High Sports recording days. Yeah, I gotta say, guys, guess who's going to Game 5?
Who's going? What? The Nuggets or you? Are you saying
not me? No, I'm not.
I'm
not. I wanted to terrify everyone for a second.
Woo!
Same guy at work who sold me the Game 2 tickets. Shout out to you, Kurt. But same guy was like, hey, I might have another pair for Game 5. And I said, I think it would be immoral for me to go to Game 5. I think it would be like, even if I had the money for it, I think it would be immoral for me to go. Once they're going up against like Chet Holmgren, I might, consider venturing back over to Ball Arena, but I'm not going near Ball Arena for at least a few weeks.
Can we discuss the Nuggets record when Bree Maestas and Zach Seegers aren't in the building? I mean, they might be undefeated.
It's bad. Honestly, no, they win way more than
they might be undefeated.
That is not okay. So the thing is, I haven't seen the Nuggets lose until that last game. Every time I'm there, they win. How dare you try to troll out this narrative that it's somehow me cursing the Nuggets?
Yeah.
I've been to that game 1 and 2 of the series, let it be known. Zach was at game 1 and 2.
And those are the 3. I've gone to 15 Nuggets games a year. Each of the last 2 years, I've seen 3 Nuggets losses, 2 of them in this Timberwolves series. And I hear you. I'm not touching a Timberwolves game again for a long while. Joey's the good luck charm, though. I'll give him that. He, as to my knowledge, Nuggets are undefeated when at least I've gone with Joey.
Never lost. Never.
I'm going just out of spite. I'm looking right now on Game Time for tickets because nobody tells me what to do. We're back, obviously.
Nuggets lose Game 5, Bree. If it's going to be an awkward Wednesday
out of here.
I don't believe in any of your shenanigans. This is ridiculous. I am literally being burned at the stake right now. It is the Salem witch trials all over again, and you guys are just feeding into it. I cannot believe it. Colin Harrington, thank you though for the comment.
I've never been so superstitious about a sporting event before. I'm someone who doesn't like mine into superstition. Man, this Wolf series, I'm buying all in. I wore my so I couldn't watch Game 3. Joey honestly got in my head about the Game 1 and 2 thing. Game 3, I wasn't able to watch because I was working for like the first half, a little into the third quarter. I see that they're doing tremendous at halftime. I'm driving home. I go, maybe I can listen to it on the radio. I turn it on. I hear, oh, and Edwards hits a step back 3. And I'm like, nope. All right. I'm turning it off. Avoided it. I did watch Game 4. But I threw on the same blue long sleeve chassis shirt that I was wearing at the event I was working during Game 3. Didn't wear any Nuggets gear. I'm going full superstitious, Joey. I'm going to keep wearing that until the Nuggets lose while I'm wearing it. I'm going to be at the bar wearing shirts to hide it.
If you're a fan of the Let's Talk Broncos podcast, what you have to pray for is that Let's Talk Broncos does not get credentialed. I don't know if Zach's ever broken into the record when he's at the game, but oh my God, we have to pray to God Zach Seegers is not there. I hope they're listening. Anyways.
Wow. I cannot believe this is happening, but I will admit I was not watching the game last night. I was at a concert. And so maybe just for this series in general, I'll stay away. How about that? Does that make you happy? Broncos Country, Nuggets Nation. Let's get some Mile High basketball luck going in the chat. And we'll start off with some rookie minicamp takeaways. Obviously, Sean Payton has nothing but praise for Bo Nix and his showing right now. We've obviously heard nothing but great things. And I think that's sort of the emphasis of what you want to see going into this offseason. Bo Nix is new in the building, but it looks like there's a little bit of a reinvigorated energy around not only, the Broncos roster. It looks like the coaches have some more pep in their step. Is this a sign for good things to come here for the Broncos during the offseason as we approach training camp?
Go ahead, Zach. Take it away.
Yeah, I think it's a really, thank you so much, Doc Manning. Appreciate you. Yeah, everyone, as we talk about all the rookie camp buzz and hype in our takeaways, I've got an article. You can see the link down in the YouTube description. It'll take you right there. It's all the positive quotes we found about Bo Nix from this most recent weekend. He had an incredibly hyped up camp. I think that's got to be the top takeaway for Broncos country, because as we will say ad nauseum over the next, several years, hopefully, like the future of this franchise comes down to Bo Nix and how that pick pans out. I think it's important to remember that this is just rookie minicamp, and it's hard to make any, meaningful takeaways from it. I think it is a checkpoint along the way, though. And Bo Nix is checking that box off. Like, as a prospect, he is someone that was described as mentally advanced, accurate, knows where to go with the football, a good decision maker. Those are traits you would hope translate to this setting. Like, his style of quarterbacking is one that you would hope is, plays well. You would hope he's a guy who can play well in training camp, because it's all about accuracy and decision making, which are his strong points. And to his credit, that came through. So I think he's checking that box. I don't think we should read too much into it, but I also remember the Paxton Lynch and the Drew Lock training camp experiences when it's just training camp. We can't read too much into it. It's not that we don't have to be concerned about that yet. And he's young. It's okay that it's not happening. Just give him time. He'll figure it out. And we don't have to do that right now with Bo Nix. And I think that's a positive place to be.
Yeah. I mean, it's good to, here's my take. It's good to hear that he's not like being terrible, like he doesn't suck during during the rookie mini camp. That would be a red flag, but anything above suck I don't care about. That's my take on this right now. Like, okay, that's great. You're not just so bad that you can't do 7-on-7 with no defense throws. I'm very happy about that. Like, I should be the people though acting like I should be floored by this. Man, I don't want to hear it from you. I remember, do you guys remember when Jamar Chase dropped a couple footballs and they just happened to catch that on camera during minicamp? And everyone's like,
he was even doing it in preseason.
He can't even catch.
He was doing it in preseason.
He can't catch. I don't want to hear anything about rookie training camp clips. Somebody put out the one of, I forget which two rookie quarterbacks they were, but they were throwing
Drake May and Daniels.
Okay, got you. And then they had them side by side on the screen. They're like, man, this one, he throws so much faster than the other one. They're throwing on air, okay? We don't care about anything you're talking about. Don't even show me clips, if I'm being honest right now. The only thing I want are some, like, hype pictures. And if you're going to do a clip, I want edits, so it's a highlight video. I may even want some music in the background. Just give me hype. That's the only thing I care about right now from these. Yeah, I just do not care.
And I get you. The bar, like, it's not that meaningful. We can have a low bar for it to be a success. I think that's true. But I think it's also fair to note the Broncos' recent quarterbacks haven't been clearing the bar. I'm used to hearing reports about interceptions or the number of incompletion count with these young quarterbacks, or in regard to Paxton Lynch, him permanently marking up part of the Broncos training facility with his inaccuracy while throwing on air. So I agree, like, it should be easy. It's something that we've also seen not be easy for the Broncos, two highly drafted rookie quarterbacks before this most recent one.
I don't blame the media or Broncos country for clamoring for any and all sort of clips, though, because if your team was good and it's Peyton Manning, you're much less concerned about what's going on during rookie minicamp and OTAs and training camp. You're just waiting for the games to start because, those wins are going to start trickling in. And conversely, where we're at right now is they're looking for basically anything to give them any sort of hope or passive aggressiveness on whether or not it's going to be a long, drawn out season. I'm interested to know why y'all left off Tim Tebow throwing an errant pass to absolutely nobody.
I meant
Tim
to.
Tebow.
That was the one that slipped my brain when I was rebuttaling Joey.
Tim Tebow is the rare exception of quarterback I could see and just be like, oh, wow, this is a problem during rookie training camp. Just because, I just have to see you throw a football with the motion and I got you down pat. Like, oh, man, that's an issue right there. Everything else that we don't care.
Paul coming in with a no PR video from Knicks. I'm thrilled. Paul, right there with you. I think that's the one way to show that there's little to no concerns at this present moment. And I think it's really interesting to see the changes in all of our, our kind of exalting auras right now on Let's Talk Broncos. We're smiling, we're having a good time, and we're not in the pits of hell wondering what fresh terrors await us. So thanks to everybody in the chat who's chiming in over here. We also want to hear from you in this next segment as we move into the Denver Broncos' most underrated players. But I did want to point out as some movements were happening, obviously, Philip Dorsett was cut, and then he, told us on Twitter that he would be back Monday. The Broncos did end up re-signing him. Maybe he falls in your categories of most more underrated players here for the Denver Broncos. But any other interesting moves that the Broncos have made in the last couple of days, maybe numbers-wise? I don't think we had an opportunity to really chat about rookie numbers. There's not a whole lot of movement right now as we move into the offseason. That'll ramp up shortly. Anything else stick out to you as far as news and notes from the Broncos organization before we head into our main meat of the subject?
Yeah, I generally don't like 37 for rookies, but I think that'll be a fun one with Audric Estime. I think a running back is shaping up to be like a fun position battle with like a lot of young, intriguing pieces for the Denver Broncos. I'm going to continue to bet against Blake Watson, but hey, I hope I'm proven wrong there. I think that's interesting. And then Devon Villay. I mean, he's the guy. I know I said he was my least favorite pick or one of them. I think Joey said the same thing. Like, he was a 7th round pick, but it was just like a little puzzling that this guy who wasn't a super productive receiver in college and is 26 years old is going to be your flyer. Sounds like he was very impressive at rookie camp. And to Joey's point, this is 7-on-7. They're not playing against real defenders, but this is the same setting where like Brandon Johnson was standing out to me. Like, I remember some of the guys that have stood out to me in this setting, and it's been the receivers that have maybe not made the roster or whatever, but the Jalen Virgils or the Brandon Johnsons or the Jordan Taylors of the world. And guys that end up kind of glomming onto the back end of the roster. And I think Villay has a great chance of doing that. I think there's a very good chance it comes down to him or Lil Jordan Humphrey, as Joey pointed out in our post-draft show, as kind of that like big slot. And I mean, I do think Villay's not one where you're wanting to bank on his projection or his development. But if he continues to have a strong camp, if this rookie camp thing carries over into training camp, into the preseason, I think he could absolutely beat out Lil Jordan Humphrey for that role at the back end of the receiver group.
Will say, so yeah, I didn't really care about the pick. Like, so few 7th round picks make the roster that if you think that you're going to take a guy that has a chance at it, hey, be my guest. I don't care how old you are. If you have a chance to make the roster, you're better than most 7th round picks. My one thing I will say about this rookie minicamp thing, if the 26-year-old sucks in rookie minicamp, we have an issue. The 26-year-old rookie, like that would be a problem. So I pray to God he's looking okay, especially at wide receiver. No corner covering him. Like what?
Okay, but he's out. But he was the go-to guy for Knicks over like Troy Franklin, for example. Troy Franklin, who he has tons of collegiate chemistry with, and he was going to Villay more often. Like, I don't think it's just oh, he's an old receiver who's catching balls against no one. I think, you can see their movement skills or whatnot in these settings, and that's what
How
can
many
stand out.
players even go to rookie minicamp? Do we know how many
It's like
players usually?
30-ish, 40-ish, because I think they had 7, 8
They had
drafted, and then they
50.
announced.
They had more than 50 players participating, including veteran and pro players, tryout players, pro tryouts, rookie tryouts, and then veteran first year players also. So they had a ton of participants this year.
That's wild. 50 people.
I think
there.
that's pretty standard. I think that's pretty
No, I
standard.
know. That's just a crazy thing. Like, even if that is standard, 50 players at a rookie minicamp, how many players do you think of those make the actual roster?
Well,
Like,
The ones that you
considering
draft.
yeah, like 5. That's wild.
Well, that was going to be my question on whether or not there were any rookie tryouts, because that's kind of the longest list there of participants. Were you watching any of those lists to see if there would be any surprise players being picked up for either practice squad participants or filling in that roster that seems a little depleted after the house cleaning this offseason?
Yeah, I mean, it's always something to monitor. I think like Trinity Benson came from one of these situations, if I'm remembering correctly. There's been a guy or two over the years that has emerged from it. It's very, very rare though. If something happens from it, great. I believe the Broncos already reported they cut all 22. That doesn't mean, like, of the rookie tryout guys, that doesn't mean that one of them couldn't return or be brought back later on in the offseason. These offseason rosters are constantly churning. But it does seem pretty unlikely there. Now, I do think there's a good number of UDFAs that have a shot. I already mentioned Blake Watson. I've pounded the table for the Texas A&M punter. I think it's Calcaterra is his name. And then I've who's the Levette Bailey? I think I'm getting that right. The linebacker that they were pursuing hard a little bit, get some athleticism in that inside linebacking room. Yeah, I think they might find some roster spots in that regard, but I'm not necessarily surprised that none of the rookie tryout, rookie camp add-ons panned out.
Yeah.
I think the cool one there is obviously the Mines quarterback, Matacha, at least out there getting some run. Obviously, there's not a whole lot of space on the Denver Broncos roster for an additional quarterback, but good to see him out there. Good Colorado kid representing.
Well, I think there might be. Like we talked about it last show, so we don't have to go down the rabbit hole again. And Joey and I are in agreement that Stidham is the heavy favorite for that backup job. But if Wilson were to win the backup job, Stidham is not going to survive on the practice squad. Someone will poach him very quickly. He probably wouldn't even make it to the practice squad in the first place. They'll cut him and someone else will sign him. So you would need a practice squad quarterback at that point. And I think Matocha, I don't know how to pronounce his name, the Mines kid, would be a good fit there potentially. I think he's got a great chance to not get that job, but something to consider. I wouldn't be surprised if he's back in Denver before too long here. There's also a chance that like Wilson isn't the practice squad quarterback you want, and you end up going with Matocha or whatever.
Awesome. Thank you. Glad that the rabbit hole was avoided because I was curious, wanted to talk about that. Kathy, wonderful to see you. Hi, LTB crew. I think Alex Forsyth might be the player that's underrated because of draft status. That might be the inside linebacker of the offense. Kathy, thanks for your donation. 1, for tuning in. 2, for supporting Let's Talk Broncos, because we'd be nowhere without people like you who are able to, support us not only financially, but emotionally. You are our emotional support fan. Thanks for tuning in. Very nice of you. Paul even gives you a nice little shout out here. Want to say thank you. Alex Forsyth is an interesting choice because to me, he seems like a shoo-in for that opportunity. Perhaps where the underratedness comes from is that there's more to that tank than we're giving credit for. Maybe there's less emphasis on us being hesitant about Forsyth being the center of the future. Joey, I'm going to send it over to you first and foremost. How do you feel about this underrated pick here from Kathy?
Yeah, I think that this is a good pick just because the floor is so low at the center position, right? Like, I don't think you know what you're expecting here, so it's very realistic that Alex Forsyth could be an underrated player for the Broncos, because what am I sitting here thinking of him? I don't know yet. I just don't know. So he very well could be super underrated. I mean, he went later in the draft than he was supposed to. He was the center for Oregon for quite a while. He has lots of experience at the collegiate level, and honestly played pretty good. I mean, that Oregon offensive line is nothing to play around with. They were a really good offensive line every year. Forsyth was there. So yeah, I don't hate this pick at all. I think it could definitely turn out that Alex Forsyth is the player we're underrating the most at this point in the season, or at this point in the off season. There's a very strong possibility of that.
Yeah, I fully agree. Like he could come in and be a solid starting center. I mean, center's a position where I think the barrier to entry is kind of low. You can have a lot of help on either side of you to cover up your limitations and whatnot. Like I remember looking at some of the prospects this year, and it's like, oh, that's a guy that maybe has to move into guard. And then there's some guys where you're like, ooh, that guy might be center only. So just in that sense, he's going to have some protection. I think the skills with him are good. I agree with Joey. He didn't look like your standard 7th round pick. I think that happened because of injury, if I'm remembering correctly. And he's now had tons of time to clean that up. And I also think it's noteworthy that I think it was January or February, you have George Payton giving a press conference, and he talks about how they see Alex Forsyth as a future starter in this league. And you hear GMs, coaches, whatever, make statements like that all the time, and it's just lip service. And I'd be happy to write off Peyton's statement as just lip service if it wasn't, or if the Broncos didn't go out this offseason and do nothing at the center position. I know they got Throckmorton or Sam Mustipher, but that might as well be doing nothing at the center position. That's a huge gamble on a 7th round, 2nd-year player who didn't play a snap last year to just, hey, we think this guy's going to be a 17-game starter. It is a big gamble, and I think there's probably been something, whether it be on the practice field, in the meeting rooms with Zach Strief, whatever, that has bolstered that level of confidence, or given them that level of confidence, rather. And that's what's giving me confidence, because we haven't seen Alex Forsyth. I have to base it off what I saw from him with the Oregon Ducks a couple seasons ago. And that's just being honest, like not super clear in my memory. So I like the pick from Kathy, and I agree. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up being the player who we look back on and thinking we were really underrating this offseason.
Whoops, I almost did me a Zach. I think Victory Lap has a great point here. We've talked about it previously, but saying from what I'm hearing so far, Bo should start this season, right? Yes. Victory Lap. I think that is a great wager to put all of your money on, but don't mortgage the house because weird things happen. I just wouldn't see Jarrett Stidham getting the start over Bo Nix, and I definitely wouldn't see Zach Wilson getting it. Although, had you told me this a month ago, I probably would have had question marks surrounding this. But it looks like Sean Payton's bought in to Bo Nix, his choice, his guy. And yeah, I don't see it being any other way. But is there any possibility that there's an underrated quarterback currently on the team's roster right now? Do any of you guys see that as a potentiality?
I mean, sure, it wasn't going to be my pick, but Jarrett Stidham is wildly underrated by this fan base right now. Again, so many tweets I have seen comparing Zach Wilson to Jarrett Stidham, and it's insane. Again, if you like Zach Wilson's upside, it's not the gamble I'm going to make, but we can have that conversation. We can talk about that upside gamble and the talent he has, and maybe if it could be developed and realized someday. In terms of who's the better NFL quarterback so far in their careers, it is a dramatic canyon, like just so big. The gap between Stidham and Wilson is similar to the gap between like Stidham and Josh Allen, which like there's a big gap between Josh Allen and Jarrett Stidham. And Jarrett Stidham's not a very good quarterback, but Zach Wilson is abhorrently bad. Like Zach Wilson is closer to Trinity, or not Trinity Medicine. I'm just saying that because he wore number 2, is closer to Kendall Hinton than he is to Jarrett Stidham as an NFL quarterback. And that's crazy. It's crazy to think that's the case, because this guy was the 2nd overall pick just a few short years ago. But that's also the reality of the situation. And meanwhile, Stidham's a good backup. If the Broncos were to cut him, he would very quickly be signed by someone on I think a solid contract, because he's one of the better backup quarterbacks in the league. You don't want him starting for you. And to that point, just him being a fine backup, he's earned that role and earned this most recent contract he got from the Broncos for being like a solid decision maker who just like delivers the ball on time, nothing flashy with him, whatever. We saw it last 2 games of last season. And we know Sean Payton wanted him to go in there because he was just fed up with Russell Wilson's inability to run his offense. And he just wanted someone in there who could run the offense. 2 victory laps comment here. I think Bo Nix is going to be totally ready to run that offense by week 1, but he is an NFL rookie running a new playbook, and it's a lot to ask of a quarterback. And I don't think it would be that shocking if Sean Payton, who I think it's very clear he wants a guy who will run his offense for the first month of the season or whatever, turns to Jarrett Stidham. I would bet on Bo Nix, but I do think that's a realistic possibility.
I think it's Bo. And here's the question I'd ask. If you have a backup quarterback, okay, so how much is Jarrett Stidham teaching Bo Nix? I think that's questionable. And then also how do we trust him to win games if an injury happened to our starting quarterback? Also very questionable to me. And I wonder the value of that. Like, I want one or the other. You need to be a vet that's either going to win us games, and I trust you to win games when our starting quarterback is out, or I have you here for a purpose, and that's to teach my starting quarterback something. And I just wonder how much I trust Jarrett Stidham to do either. I think he's cool at both, but I don't think I wouldn't trust the Broncos to win many games with him as their starting quarterback. How much am I trusting him to teach a Bo Nix? Also, I think a little questionable. Zach Wilson to me is just the lesser of both of those. So that's why I picked Jarrett Stidham. But honestly, I don't know. Maybe you're higher on Jarrett Stidham than I am, but I don't think he's a very great backup quarterback for the purpose of why I want a backup quarterback. Like, I think if you did the quarterback ranks, he might be okay, but I would either want somebody that's going to win us games if our starting quarterback is injured, and I don't trust Jarrett Stidham to do that, or teach our quarterback something. And Jarrett Stidham, I don't know if I trust him to do that either. So I don't know.
I think this will just reignite our debate from last week, but I would say I agree with you on those 2 points. Where I would disagree is I think there's a third category that I think is also important, at least for a team in the Broncos position, is important for whoever's playing quarterback, whether that be the backup, the starter, whatever. And that is, can you provide quality reps for the other 10 players on offense to get quality development? Right? Because if you run a Paxton Lynch out there, for example, your receivers aren't getting good development. Your offensive line isn't getting good development. Your run game probably isn't getting good development because of how out of whack the passing game is. It's going to not just, screw up your quarterback. It's going to stunt the growth and development of the rest of your offense. And as the Broncos are a rebuilding team that's trying to get young, that's trying to develop so many different components across the entire roster, including the offense, I do think having a guy, and again, I think Bo Nix will be able to do this. I think he will be the week 1 starter. But if he's not, I do think there's value in a guy who can provide those quality reps for the rest of the offense. Even if he's not going to win you a lot of games, even if he's not going to teach Bo Nix a ton, if he's better at that point in time at running the offense, I do think there's still value in it.
Yeah, no, I could see that a little bit, and then I would say what's more valuable, I guess. Like, I think that would come in third place to me, because the quarterback position altogether is still more important. I would rather have a quarterback that's winning me football games or a quarterback that's teaching my starting quarterback than a quarterback that's helping develop during practice reps the rest of the defense or something like that. The quarterback is still the most important position on the field. And if it's not directly affecting my team, you playing quarterback, like directly affecting my win-loss or helping my other quarterback, is the value all the way there.
I mean, Jared Goff just got $200 million for specifying in that third category.
What do you think about the Jared Goff contract?
$53 million.
Jared Stidham ain't making $53 million.
Okay, so let's shut up about it then. I don't want to hear you talk about that if you disagree. If you don't like the
Well, no, I think there's
contract.
value in it. I can think there's value in it and not think there's $53 million worth of value. I can think that there's value in it and that value falls somewhere between the $3 million that Stidham's making and the $53 million that Goff's making. I think that's a fine stance that it can fall somewhere in that 50 million degree gap.
Yes, I totally agree with you. But at the end of the day, we're talking about backup quarterbacks. We're not talking about Jared Goff can win you football games. He can do the whole thing. He's a starting caliber quarterback. I'm talking about a backup quarterback here.
Allegedly. That's an interesting conversation that we can go down if we really wanted to start tearing off where Jared Goff falls in the big picture of everything. But I think a lot of these conversations get washed away when the question mark and the biggest question mark of your organization is the quarterback that you have, the one that's going to take you the furthest. And so until that's answered, I think that's a conversation that's going to continue to come up on who's the more appreciable, efficient quarterback. Paul seems to think that Stidham is a flatliner at quarterback, as has been the case the last handful of years. Joey, I'm going to throw over to you to give your underrated player for the Denver Broncos right now, heading into the season at any point in time. Go ahead and give me yours, and Zach, you'll go next.
Cool. Yeah, mine is Jonathan Cooper. I think he's the most underrated player on the Broncos. I think Jonathan Cooper can be a pro as long as he pretty much wants to. Like, Jonathan Cooper's a really good football player. I don't think he has the potential to be an all-pro or Pro Bowler or something like that. I don't think that. But I think Jonathan Cooper is a hell of an edge rusher that any team in the NFL would want part of their group. He does everything at a well level. Like, he does it good. He can get after the passer. His motor just does not stop, and he's a solid run defender. He does everything pretty good, and I think he's gotten better year after year. So I think Jonathan Cooper's the most underrated player on the Broncos roster. Just out of the fact that, like, you guys have to put him in a place where he actually is belonging. Is he a 1A pass rusher, kind of like how the Broncos want to use them right now just because they don't have a 1A pass rusher? No. But if he's my guy rotating off the bench, what the hell? Jonathan Cooper might be one of the best in the league at that. He is super underrated. Being here on the Broncos, being a 7th-round pick, and coming on the roster and being really good at it. I talked to a defensive line coach at the Senior Bowl. I've said this before, and he was talking to me. He's like, yeah, well, the Broncos have a pretty good defensive line. And I was like, oh, yeah, who are, like, I guess, because I kind of disagreed. And he was said, well, there you have that Ohio State guy. And I was like, oh, Baron Browning. He has a lot of potential. He's like, no, that Jonathan Cooper. That's who I'm talking about, who is really good on this Broncos defensive line. And I totally agree. He doesn't do anything at a bad level. He's going to be a pro for a very long time.
It's too early to play guess the stat line, but could you see Cooper leading in sacks again this year?
I could see it, but I think that would mean that you had your other pass rushers not perform like you wanted them to. I think
Taking
that
the words
Jonathan
out of my
Cooper
mouth
is the best overall guy on this defensive on this edge room. Do I think he's the best pass rusher? I would say I would rather. If I had to put my best pass rushing group out there, it would be Baron Browning and Nick Bonito, in my opinion.
Yeah, Cooper is like the high floor, low ceiling member of the room, and I think like if he's the guy leading the way for you, you're kind of like higher ceiling gambles, like Nick Bonito, Baron Browning, guys you're hoping develop over the future here, probably didn't pan out too great. John Ellis.
Awesome.
Yeah, and Zach, by the way, that defensive line coach, I was an NFL defensive line coach for another team. I want to clarify that. That's not
another
just
team that would
high school coach. That was an NFL defensive line coach.
Another team that would recognize quality defensive line talent too.
Yeah.
Oh, now we're floating hints out here. Now you should spell it out.
Well, I mean, it's not like
in capital letters in a ransom
terrible defensive
and
line
send
talent.
it to the newspaper.
it wasn't the Chargers coming in and being like, it wasn't some Chargers coach being like, oh man, like, because then it's like, okay, I see now why your defensive line looks the way it does. It was someone who, I don't know, I listen to their opinion.
I'm not messing around with the Chargers defensive line coach. I'm Team Broncos all the way. We're not talking.
You're trading insider information with the Kansas City Chiefs, Joseph Richards. I am disappointed in you, and I'm going to release that as an insider information tweet here very shortly. Send all complaints to @JR Drafts.
Joey spit in Andy Reid's drink.
Yeah, so just because I have that insight, now when I tweet the eye emoji on Twitter, I want everyone to go crazy. I want retweets. I want, oh, what is he talking about? I want the whole situation. Anyways.
Aaron Rodgers to Denver. Zach Seegers, who's your most underrated player here for the Denver Broncos heading into 2024?
Man, Kathy and I are having a mind meld right here. I'm going PJ Locke. I think I've seen so much talk about the new look safety room and everyone saying Stearns and Brandon Jones. My bet, and some of it is injury related, but my bet is that the starting safeties are going to be PJ Locke and Brandon Jones. I think PJ Locke is one of the Broncos' 2 starting safeties this year. Calling my shot right now. And I don't think, maybe that's a popular opinion on this podcast. I don't think that's a popular opinion in Broncos country. I think he's very underrated, especially for a guy that anytime he's been asked to do anything for the Denver Broncos, he's done it well.
Yeah.
It's not to say he hasn't had bad games. He had a bad game or 2 or 3 last year, but anytime he's been asked to step up, whether it be as like the third safety that's playing around the box, or, you know, a fill in for Kareem Jackson or a fill in for Justin Simmons, he's done it and done it very, very, very well. I think he, and before all that, when he was just a special teamer, he was doing that well. He has consistently, played at a level deserving of more and more and more opportunities. And then he gets those opportunities and he asks for more. And I think that's exactly what we're going to see here. I think his contract is going to look like an absolute steal. And I think, you know, no one's going to replace Justin Simmons, but I do think PJ Locke will have Broncos country going like, oh, okay, it wasn't so bad. Like, this could have been a black hole. And instead it's just like a little step down. It's totally survivable.
Yeah. Zach, you couldn't have said it better. Whenever he's given the opportunity, he's fulfilled the job. Like, I've said that 1,000 times here on this podcast, but going back to the preseason, when he got his preseason snaps, what did he do? He took opportunity. When the next offseason, when he started getting higher up reps in the preseason, what did he do? He looked damn good. When he started getting spot minutes, what did he do? He looked really, really good. When he got a starting opportunity, oh, damn, this PJ Locke's pretty good. When are we just going to admit that PJ Locke is a pretty good football player? When is that going to happen? Because every single opportunity, he's shown us who he is at this point. And it's a guy that's going to fly around on the football field and show us he wants to be out there. He's hair on fire type player from PJ Locke. Motor never stops running. And I really think he's one of those guys that puts his all into the sport. He's one of those guys that I can confidently say loves football. That's why he's here right now. So, yeah, shout out to PJ Locke. I think that's a good call, Zach.
And he has a tremendous story, too. If you're not familiar with it, go ahead and scroll on back on Let's Talk Broncos through our live videos. We've done interviews with PJ and Caden as well, but terrific story, his work ethic, the person that he is, the passion that he has, and I'll gloat anytime that I can. Zach, I think that's a tremendous pick, but also because there's so many questions within the defensive backs that there are kind of less of a competition there. You got JL Skinner, Devin Key sitting around there looking to score a position or a ranking there. But safety and cornerback is a question that is always scary for me as we approach the start of the season, because there's never enough. There's always question marks. With the release of Justin Simmons, it leaves a bunch of what are we going to do and how are we going to do it? And that actually leans into mine, because I think the easy answer for a lot of us is Chris Saban's drain and whether or not he'll have a high impact here. But I think Riley Moss is also a question of what kind of impact, considering it's now a bust potential if you do not have a high impact this season. And what does that have to say about those in the organization who pushed so hard and went so far to draft you? And I'm obviously talking about a opportunity to be across from Pat Surtain. I don't know if Levi Wallace necessarily fills that. I don't know if Damari Mathis does, Art Green. So I think there's some questions here on whether or not Riley Moss has the perfect opportunity to make this happen, or if that's lost already, if that's a no-go. You'll look and see on the Denver Broncos depth chart, Riley's not even listed, first and foremost. And two, what would it take to get him to that emphasis? Like, how would you consider that a real turnaround? Is it 3 or 4 interceptions? Is it more? Is it starting just every single game? Like, what are you looking for from a DB in this instance?
If he can be a solid starter, like if he can be a starter that's not a, I'm not like, he doesn't even have to be a plus starter. If he can be a starter that isn't actively a problem every week, like Damari Mathis was last year, though that's extreme. But if he can just be fine starter, yes, he's going to have some rookie moments. Maybe he does have an interception or two, but if he can just like hold down the fort opposite Patrick Surtain, that's a win, because that's all the Broncos need opposite Patrick Surtain. You don't need like another superstar corner opposite him. If anything, that kind of depreciates how valuable Surtain is. I don't like he can shut down half the field. You just need a guy on the other end who can do his job. If Moss can do that, it's a hit.
Yeah. The first thing I want to see is him win the starting job. I think that if he doesn't win the starting job, that's going to be like a little bit of a red flag. It's either a huge red flag or it's Damari Mathis is more of a baller than I'm giving him credit for. It's one or the other. And I would lean towards it's a red flag. Riley Moss, this is your opportunity, man. Come in. Like we need you to be the player the Broncos took and who they want him to be, which is a solid cornerback too on this team. If he can do that, the Broncos are set at DB this year. That'll be amazing. I just want him to be. This is what I'll say. I want him to be a little better than what Fabian Moreau was, and I'll be very happy. Right at corner next year. That's what I want. That is my expectation for him, and if he doesn't meet that, I'll be bummed.
I think it's okay to have expectations there. I was waiting for Zach to talk, and I didn't want to talk over him, and he didn't. And so here I am. Breaking news, gentlemen. The Let's Talk Broncos YouTube page is approaching the 1,900 subscriber. That means we're on our way to 2,000. We need to figure out a way to let everybody here in Broncos country and Let's Talk Broncos fandom know that your support means everything to us. But we also need to hit that 2,000 mark. Zach, any brilliant ideas on how to do such?
Yeah. We've done a jersey giveaway on here before, and it was a disaster. And that's why I won't sign up my co-hosts for another, but I will throw myself directly under the bus. If you want one of these like vintage Broncos throwbacks, they're not available yet. Or if you want one of the new jerseys of Bo Nix or a different Broncos player, Estime, a non-rookie, whoever is your cup of tea, hit me up on Twitter. Ideally, honestly, in this comment section, comment under this video of the YouTube. If you are subscribed, you'll be entered into a chance to give away. I'll give it away to a random commenter. You just have to be subscribed to this.
How about this, Zach? That's, this wasn't a conversation we had at all.
That's why I'm doing it solo. No one's roped into this. It doesn't matter. I'm doing
I know you're throwing yourself around the bus. I'm just adding on at this point. So how about they get a pick whether Zach buys a jersey or if we hit 2,000 subscribers in the next 2 weeks, let's say, right? So that's a lot of subscribers, right? If you guys get us the 2,000, I'm going to push it to 3. 3 weeks is fair. No? Is that fair, Zach?
I think 3 is fair. We'll say 3. We'll say
Zach will do the hot chip challenge on the show. Would you agree or disagree? On the show. Content.
Yeah, why not? We need some off-season content that can be clippable, that can go on socials. I'll follow on this word. A fun fact, we were gonna do a hot chip challenge on LTB. We had set aside a hot chip in the Mile High Sports office, and then someone just went, "Oh, I'm gonna eat this." And it was gone.
I don't even remember this. Who?
I think it was Kip. I might be wrong. Shout out Kip. Love you. But yeah, we'll have to get another one. I'm down. I don't know how or where you buy one of those. But I'm down. Let's hit
here's the situation, guys. You guys,
people
I don't
almost
care how we
likes.
get there. Create another account, subscribe, tell a friend to subscribe. Get us the 2,000 subscribers because Zach is going to eat a hot chip on this, or you get a Broncos jersey. I prefer the free content here at Let's Talk Broncos. Me personally, I think it would be amazing for all of us. Share it, please.
Listen, if your nana's really busy right now watching true crime documentaries, but you're gonna send her our link and you're gonna say do it or else, and you just have her subscribe, hit the notifications, and then she can kind of remove it from her sub history, so she doesn't have to see us every time. But who knows? She could be a favorite fan of ours. I'm a fan of true crime. The Let's Talk Broncos, if you want to win that jersey, is hashtag Let's Make Zach Cry. You have to comment underneath all of his posts from now on, and we'll enter you in for that solo jersey.
Yeah. And grandparents will click on anything, so that should be an easy layup.
Samuel Castro said, did I hear LTB 2K? Did you say LTB 2K? I like that campaign name. I think that's fun. I think that's exciting. We're all getting it tattooed on our body, and you get to pick the placement. Congratulations. Let's Talk Broncos. Fun show. Fun show tonight. Chris just subscribed. I don't know where you came from, sir, but welcome.
New commenter too. Shout out Chris.
Yeah, Zach, that's only 199 more.
I'm ready for it. I'm a man of my word.
All right. Anyways.
And then Samuel Castro says we should put up billboards around Denver. I like it. I love it. I want more of it. And I know you guys want more of the Let's Talk Broncos crew. We'll be back on. Oh, what?
Really quick. This won't take long. Joey, if we get 300.
No. Anyways,
you won't join me? Wow.
Let's get it going. I disagree. I don't know what he's talking about. Zach, secrets. I have no idea what he's saying. I'm just kidding. Yeah, what were you saying, Zach?
I was gonna say if we got to 300, if we get 300, so we get to 2,100 subscribers in the next 3 weeks.
Okay.
Would you do a one chip challenge as well? Make it a 2 chip challenge.
Of course I will.
All right, there we go. On the record.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, I love the impromptu ad lib, mad lib, crazy additions that we did at the end of the show. Next time, do it exactly like this. This was great. All right, wave to the camera. We're out of here. See you on Wednesday. Goodbye.